Hello and welcome to this episode of Goals View. I've got plenty to say in this one. So Torquay drew 1-1 at Wealdstone last night. Let's be honest, it was quite disappointing. But I'm more here to talk about just a few incidents happen. I think the overall view on this season and where we are. Now, Torquay United, yes, our aim is to get to the Football League, of course. We shouldn't be stuck around in the Football League as many other teams are. We know this, and with Gary Johnson, the best manager in years, maybe even ever, the history. We know after last season we should be battling to go up. However, as we have gone over many times, with the sort of availability of the players, sort of after the playoff final, the money compared to other teams, targets just rejecting us, key players leaving, the summer window was a bit of a disaster. And let's be honest, we got some players in, some worked, most didn't. It didn't really work. We've gone over that. We know the situation in the summer. So obviously this season it started awfully. Players were very underperforming. Thankfully, Gary Johnson brought a couple of good players in, turned it around. And I think the key for me this season was when we had Sinclair, Armstrong, Jack Sparks on loan around the sort of Christmassy period. It really showed what we can do when we just have a couple players that were just the standard of your Armani Littles and Sean McDonald's, Joe Lewis's, all that sort of thing. And of course, we've gone rising up the sort of the table, and it's always playoff talk. Last 3 games for me, it was always been an outsider, but we had to get 7-9 points from the last 3 games. We got 3. For me, it's over. Season's over for me now. It's a bit boring because as a Torquay fan, we're not used to this. We're used to either having battling relegation or even promotion coming the end of the season. So yeah, it does just feel a bit like, this is a bit boring now, isn't it? I understand the frustration in that sense. However, I just don't really understand this general kind of black and white. Oh, it's all disaster, life disaster. It's a building season. That's what it is. And Gary Johnson can't find the players to bring it in. No, I don't think it's like that. If you're a GI and you've got a load of money, you've got FFP next season, just save money and have the rise next season. Instead of just having this sort of big lump money where we won't be able to spend as much next season, let's just keep the money, get the most. This season's probably done and buried. As soon as Sinclair Armstrong went back for me, it never came back. It just wasn't really on. We've got some good players coming, and some of us haven't really lived up to it either, which I'll get onto in a minute. But I just think it's a building season. Gary Johnson's here next year. He knows what's not good enough and what's not. Now I'm going to move on to the low loss situation. I was a fan of low loss, especially, I think when he's playing up front, Sinclair Armstrong. But if Gary Johnson doesn't think a player's good enough, we don't sit there behind the scenes. We don't know what's going on in training. We don't know what's going on here. If he's not putting in the work ethic, if he's not doing what he wants, if he's just not good enough, then I'll let Gary Johnson decide that at the end of the day. It's a shame, and it's horrible what happened last night. I'm not particularly a fan of it at all, to be honest with you, and I'm a big fan of Gary Johnson, but everyone makes mistakes. I don't, it's never nice to see that to a young person's career. He clearly tries on the pitch, low loss, but it just hasn't worked for him for whatever reason. It was not nice to see, really was, and it did not make sense to me when there's no other striker. If you think of when Everton did it in the Premier League, when Duncan Ferguson was interim, he did it more as a Keane. They had another striker to bring on. We had O'Connell. On to the game last night. First half, I thought we played all right. Should have been 2-0 up. Lemon Ivans had that lovely chance. We made it himself and then just didn't know to square it, whatever. He should have finished that. Danny Wright had a very good header, who I don't think played very well at all last night, if we're talking about strikers. Didn't find his rhythm at all. You're asking a lot from a 37-year-old who's had a lot of injuries at the end of the day. He missed that good chance. We should be ahead at the break. That final ball was poor. I thought Wern didn't have a good game. When he come on loan, I think it's Gabe against Dagenham. I compared him to Whitfield and stuff like that, and he looked class. And I think there's a great player in them. But he's just not getting involved in that final ball. I thought when you've got Troy Johnson, I said a few times I'd take him as a backup next season. And for him, I was a bit disappointed by him last night. I thought his final ball was poor. I feel like when he plays, he looks like he's a good footballer. You can tell he's come through this sort of Arsenal academy. But then his final ball was poor at times. And I don't know, I feel like in the second half, some mistakes came in. So obviously we didn't take a chance in the first half. Second half, Wealdstone adapted, changed their game plan, which then sort of stumbled sort of our game plan, Johnson and Downs' game plan, because our high press, like at Playmore, was really working. They just looked better than us. We were dreadful in the second half. We were dreadful. I don't care whether this team's, on what I've just said. For that team, they were pathetic. Passes were going here, passes going there, no movement. They couldn't deal with anything. It was awful. And then, of course, they get their goal, frustrating goal as it is. And you think, here we go. I didn't even really celebrate Torquay's equaliser. I'm on Little putting the most perfect ball in. They said it's winter at time, but I think it's been credited to Little now. Well done, Little. This shows what he needs. Don't think he had the best game ever, but at the end of the day, we're going back to the start of the season. Little wants the players to be making those runs. If he's getting the ball and that player's not advancing for him, Little's a bit useless, to be honest. I get it at times he takes through extra touches, says Lemon Evans, but we really missed Martin's pace last night because it has an effect. Martin's not playing, you don't have Moxie and Lewis as centre backs, and you don't have Winter right back. It goes like that. Missed Atal midfield. Not saying he's been he scored a lot of important goals. He's been brilliant in centre back. There's been times since his COVID stint where he hasn't quite had the legs to sort of fulfil that Atal role he usually does. But still, we missed him so much last night. Lapsy worked hard, tackles, just careless on the ball at times. We stayed with quality, so it's 1-1. And then there's a controversy. At the end of the day, we win that game 2-1, which we should have. There's not one part of me that goes, oh, that ball's gone out. It was just like I had flashbacks to Billy. It was the same goal as Billy Ward's last winner at Wealdstone last season. And then we're sat here going, oh, we've got. If I'm honest, if we had won last night, I still wouldn't have changed my mind. I've been like, yeah, great win. Keeps it kind of alive. It wouldn't have changed my mind on the squad. But we should have won. But yeah, no, season's over as far as I'm concerned. Don't really understand this sort of surprised by that. I don't get the big drama in football fans. I don't get it. At 1 minute you're like, hey, football league, and next minute you're like, oh, rubbish. It's clear from the start we're going to be against it this season. It's been a rebuilding season. It's been a disappointing season, but then it could have been a lot worse. At the end of the day, we've had some good moments this season, and we've still got 14 games. That sort of, main thing is be competitive until the end of the season. Don't start slipping back to, and bear in mind we've been unbeaten these 3 games, right? Bear in mind we don't start slipping back when we play the Knots, the Stockport's been absolutely like battering boys again. We've been kind of competitive. So keep that going to the end of the season. Have a rebuilding season now. Look, I would recall some of the young lads, just give Olaf a chance, whatever. There's people like that. I would just, work to the end of the next season now. That's what it's about. Gus is for Lolos, big fan of him. When he came, and I was like, oh, he could be really good, but it just hasn't worked. He needs a season in the South on loan or whatever it is, just away from Torquay now by the looks of it, sort of get his confidence up, work out what sort of player he is. Is he sort of a fast, excitable striker with skills? Is he going to be more of a hold-up one? Is he just a finisher? I don't really know what striker Lolos is yet. When he came, I thought he'd be skillful and be doing this, and he did. But there's only so many times you can do that. It's like Gabby Rogers. There's only so many times you can do that. Sometimes, like last night, he just needed to get the ball and hold it. That being said, when he did get the ball, I didn't really see many options for him. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like he was just kind of, something might have happened. We don't know. But yeah, I just think we need a bit more context of the situation and just look at it from his point of view. Honestly, that if in my head it works out the fact that they're going, right, Johnson stays for another year, get money for next season, do it that way. There's no point throwing thousands at a season that is basically dead now. Let's get, I just think there needs to be more sort of a long-term thinking of football fans. Not 1 week you're great, next week we're a finished club and Johnson's leaving and GI are going to ruin and run the club away. I just feel like it hasn't quite worked out this season. It's unfortunate. Let's do it again next year and just go to games and try and enjoy it. Don't go to games kind of getting on players' backs and all stuff like that. Just go to the game and enjoy it from now on. I do feel we've all got a bit too, at times, every fan base does it, but I feel there's a few people that just take it a bit too literally. It's football at the end of the day. Just enjoy it and enjoy it to the end of the season. That's what I'm saying. It's not happening now. It's frustration, whatever. But I just think there needs to be a bit of a long-term perspective that gets given. It's more than just in the game of 90 minutes. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.